Welcome everybody to the Nerdy Dad Bodcast. My name's Levi Bullard, or DM Dadbot on social media, and today we're bringing to you Yuan-Ti. Yuan-Ti are devious serpent folk devoid of compassion. That's compassion for the world, animals, humanoids, even themselves and their own culture. They live out in the jungles, swamps, and deserts most predominantly, with one goal in mind, and that's to subvert and dominate all other races and become gods. That ascension to godhood is their number one priority and bleeds into every facet and nook and cranny of their culture and society. The Yuan-Tis were once humans that worshipped serpents as totem animals. They worship them by sacrificing, praying, and performing rituals and rites for these serpent gods. While of praise and worship from the Yuan-Ti, the gods actually reached back out to them, which only made them more radical in their beliefs and bolster their horrible atrocities. Cults bound themselves to worship and imitating their ways to include human sacrifice and cannibalism, which drove several societies to seek out and try to destroy the Yuan-Ti due to those practices. They used to have vast empires and civilizations, and for that exact reason of their cannibalism and human sacrifice, there were several different kingdoms that had rallied behind and sought extermination of the Yuan-Ti. That would reason why they are only in the far-reaching parts of our world, and they're not a common species in D&D. Through foul sorcery, utterly sacrificing their humanity, the Yuan-Ti bred with snakes, producing what we now know as the Yuan-Ti. And all of those who didn't give up their humanity, who didn't transform into these snake-like creatures, were either bound into servitude as slaves, or they were fed to the gods as humanoid sacrifices. Now, most emotions are foreign to the Yuan-Ti. That's not even just including compassion, but fear, envy, lust. The only thing that they might lust is ascension to godhood. They understand that the world cannot be ruled by brute force alone, or at least not for long. So they must use cunning and guile to subvert themselves into the rightful rulers of this world, as they believe they are. Yuan-Ti try to persuade and coax people into things instead of trying to just use brute force. They promise wealth and power first. Leaders are cunning and ruthless tacticians, doing whatever they need to achieve victory and achieve their purpose. No sense of honor in combat is ever upheld by Yuan-Ti leaders. If you think that you're going to get injured and then they're going to look after you and you might be a prisoner, that's not going to happen. Yuan-Ti strive to achieve that godhood. And they believe that if one Yuan-Ti would be able to achieve enough power, they could devour and overthrow the current serpent gods. Now, that's not to say that they like these serpent gods that they worship. It's just a means to an end. They feel that the worship of these gods, the sacrifices to these gods, everything that they do will gain them more power until they can eventually ascend to godhood and take over the position of one of those serpent gods. And for that reason, Yuan-Tis are willing to commit the most heinous atrocities just to achieve God. Now, in the Yuan-Ti culture, there's a caste system. Rounding at the top of the caste system is your abominations. There are large monstrosities with a human torso and arms, and they're the highest form in the caste. Now, they believe that that's exactly how the serpent gods had intended it to be. They mastermind elaborate schemes and perform dark rites in hope of ruling the world. In second place in the caste system, you have your Malisons, something like that. I can't really pronounce it, and I know you guys are going to beam me up in the comments, but Malisons are hideous blends of human and serpentoid features. There's three main types of Malicens that are known of, but there are other possibilities. The first type is just a human with a snake's head. The second type is actually, I think, the funniest, which is a human with snakes for arms. So the mouth would probably be the hand. And then your third type is a serpentine lower half. So from the waist below is snake. And then you have your purebloods in your third and lowest spot of your caste system, which they closely resemble humans and might be able to pass off normally for humans, but not under closer inspection, as they still show some of their serpentine qualities, like scaly patches, serpentine eyes, pointed teeth, or maybe even a forked tongue. Usually they'll be masquerading as humans, maybe to gather intel or kidnap people for interrogation or sacrifices. Now, I'm going to quote these ones straight from the book so I can get it correct and detailed for you. The serpent gods are three different gods: Drendar the night serpent, Murshok the master of the pit, and Seth the simian death. Those are your three serpent gods that we've been talking about. All serpent type creatures, like the Yuan-Ti, are usually trying to supplant these three serpent gods. Like Drendar. Drendar's followers say that one day she will grow so large from feasting on the fears and nightmares of the world that she will devour it whole. Yuan-Tis that serve Drendar terrorize other creatures in any way they can, growing and nurturing the fears of humanoids to feed the night serpent. You have Murshok, the master of the pit, is a long slumbering chief deity of the Yuan-Ti. A worship of Morshok waned. He went into slumber. Morshok's priests are Yuan-Ti abominations that maintain traditions of living sacrifice and cause suffering in the god's name. With enough vile acts, the abominations believe that Murshok will reawaken and restore Yuan-Tis to their rightful place. And Seth, the simian death. Seth. That's funny, it's SS, so I figure it would be Seth. Appeared as the Yuan-Ti of iniquity in a form of winged Yuan-Ti claimed to be the avatar of Murshok. Speaking with Murshok's voice, Seth vowed to pull the Yuan-Ti out of decline and build a new empire. Many of Murshok's devout turned to the worship of Seth. Some Yuan-Ti have long doubted turned to worship. Many of Murshok's devout have long turned to Seth's worship. Some of the Yuan-Ti suspected that Seth has a usurper taking advantage of Murshok's slumber to make himself a god. Probably. That's probably what it is. They believe that Seth might even have devoured Murshok and now answers the prayers of Murshok's followers, as his priests convert or consume Murshok for more stubborn adherence. So those are your three gods of the Yuan-Ti. They feel that if one of them gains enough power, they can essentially devour and become that god. Not specifically that god itself, but take their place in essentially the serpent pantheon. Now, whether or not their belief is true, they are heinous and hideous creatures that will do anything to ascend. So, in conclusion, that's your Yuan-Ti. So that really wraps up the Yuan-Ti episode. So if you guys have any questions, please leave it in the comments section down below. And until next time, what race do you want us to cover next?